Hello everybody, welcome back. We're just going to have a look at Bitcoin now, and I suppose an overview of the market generally. Because of what happened yesterday, we've had a sizable dump, a dump that we've not seen, a proportionate dump, I suppose. This is yesterday until today, all the way down to that bottom of 21.2% from top to bottom, just from yesterday to the bottom low of today. So, I mean, there's an argument to suggest that this could be it for now. But there's also a very strong feeling of this is going to end up being perhaps a consolidation with sideways trading. So what does this mean in English, I suppose? Well, it means that Bitcoin has likely reached its top for the moment. Okay, so later on this year it'll probably make another attempt at that, probably sooner rather than later. However, the amount of selling pressure that will be taking place at these levels, especially now that we've dropped, and I mean, what was this when it comes to how much is that? They're 42,000. That's close to a $10,000 drop. It's a big one. It's a big one. So if you just put yourself in the shoes of like the miners, all right. So you mine Bitcoin. Your block hash rate is extremely high. Your electricity consumption is massive. All right. You're running a business. All right. You're mining something which is valuable. When do you sell it? At its peak value, or at a decreased rate? You've got bills to pay. This is your business. So you could argue that they're wanting to kind of get out and sell. They're not doing this for fun. They're doing it as a business. All right. So a lot of selling pressure up here, and you could argue that selling pressure is going to continue. So let's have a look at this idea of what's going on in the market. 65.50. So below that 66 level for me is always a little bit of a dicey figure. Where we could anticipate a drop, and I suppose we've had that drop, but are we going to see a sustained drop? So for the moment on this daily, we've had a reasonable bounce, and the bounce is 7% so far, so you can't complain with that. Does that correspond to anything particularly on these time frames? Not on the 4 hourly, it doesn't. On the 4 hourly, it definitely looks a little oversold, but that doesn't mean a great deal to me at all. I would imagine that we could come down to $28,500. Maybe even today perhaps, but I'm not saying that we will. I'm not calling for signals or anything like that, but I am weighing up the risks. So we're now having very steep curves on these moving averages on the 4 hourly. Targeting this level down here, I would say, is a reasonable area to target on this 200 exponential moving average, $28,500. And from what I remember, that does also coincide with the weekly 10 exponential moving average, 26. No, perhaps not. So no. These dumps can get very nasty. For those of you who are in Bitcoin for the first time, these wicks can get quite nasty. And we have been trying to be overcautious, and I've been talking about everything has to be a balance with risk. And to me, the risk was getting extremely high with this money flow index on the weekly. This picked our last top, our first major top. This was our top of 2019, and this is potentially our top now. But the one thing I did say which is different is that the money flow index has had a steady increase on this upwards trending trend line, which suggests that in a perfect world, in a perfect scenario, we would be looking for this to come back down to touch this at some point. Doesn't mean it'll touch it here. Could touch it here. Could touch it here. Who knows where it'll touch it? But if it does touch it, it might be a decent entry point. Okay, so this is nice to see. You don't normally get such progression on something like a money flow index, and this is just a calculator of price and volume going into this asset. So yeah, we've taken a dump, but the volume is still, it's not plunging, not like it has in the past. It has plunged in the past, so we're not looking at a situation, like either of these two tops. This is a different top. So if this is the top, then I would say on the back of that money flow index indicator, we are looking to perhaps just consolidate, which would mean a sideways and downtrend. So do we have anything similar to that recently? I'd say that the only recent thing that we had where we had, I suppose, a reasonably flash dump was this level here. We crept up, and over a period of a few days, we actually a couple of weeks actually, we came down 21%. Actually, this could be one way to look at this if we go to a daily. So just bear with me a moment. I'll go to a daily on this one. Right, where were we? Okay, so we could. Is there any similarities here? So this was a significant one. 1 day, 2 day, 3 day below the centre of the Bollinger Band on the daily. No, we've not reached that level yet. So this area of 31,000 could quite easily get hit and not break down from there. But this would be where it really does get. It kind of does get a little bit scary, because if we do break below there and close below there and get rejected from there, then the consolidation is likely to become a lot more nasty. But for the moment we're not there. I would look at this as an opportunity to play on. I think that this area is probably going to get taken out at some point, whether that be today or this week. I think with the money flow index looking like it wants to come down at its all-time high essentially, and this dramatic not crash but significant dump, then yeah, I would think that the centre of the Bollinger Band will certainly offer a support for us and a decent bounce for us. But if we break down and close beneath there, then we are going to talk about upper $20,000 areas. Now, what does this mean for altcoins? Well, altcoins surprisingly haven't really been too affected by. I mean, obviously they have. They've mimicked it, but the Bitcoin dominance, for instance, hasn't shot up like I would have expected it to, showing that there is actually relative strength still in alts, which is really interesting because this is normally the way it would play out. Normally, if you get a dump of Bitcoin, altcoins dump significantly, but they have shown extreme resilience this time around, which is it's almost completely bizarre, counterintuitive, not the normal behaviour. But that's how it is. So we've got to work out what's going on with altcoins. Are we likely to break down beneath this 200 exponential? And on the 4 hourly, are we going to come back down to the trend line here? And are we going to break down beneath there? Just because Bitcoin's breaking down doesn't mean that alts can't have bigger pumps. We've seen alt season started in the wake of a dump. The most impressive one would have been the March one. So March 2020, which was basically the dump that took place in the financial market. Wow, I've not seen that's. Well, someone needs to sort that out. That's not real. If only it was. If only that was real. That would be an alt season to remember. That would have been that would have been great. Never mind. Let's not worry too much about that scam wick. What it's not. I mean, it's not a scam wick. It's that you get that sometimes with Bitcoin dominance. Anyway, so what I was talking about was in May. So May was March. This is when alts really started to go to town. So the global crash took place. Everything crashed. Not that you can see that here. Bitcoin still looking strong in comparison to alts, which were completely wrecked. Alts were destroyed. They were wrecked. So was Bitcoin, in all fairness. And then when the money started trickling in, this was the alt season to remember. Some of those alts were going up, between anything as much as 5 to all the way up to some of these coins were doing like 10x's, 20x's. In the summer, from end of spring to end of summer. So in a 3-month period, some people, if they had held on to those alts, would have basically increased their portfolio size by. Some of these alts, I saw one of them which was 8,000%. I think that was banned. So these things can happen in the wake of a dump. In fact, sometimes dumps, in this occasion anyway, the dumps spark that event. So, I mean, that is the situation with the market right now. I mean, it's hanging on a knife edge. I don't like the look of it personally. I think it's got more to go, but that's not the end of the world. I don't think we're looking at any kind of significant crash style top like before. I don't think that is the case. But I would be targeting, first of all, areas such as the daily 200 exponential, the 20, which is the centre of the Bollinger Band, so about 31, and then staggering it down to perhaps about 20, between 28 and 26, those kind of zones. And there I would like to think that we would catch a bounce. But as we are saying all of this, all these oscillators are turning down, which is generally a sign of this is the movement, this is the direction for at least the foreseeable future, short-term future. So limit exposure. Don't be afraid to get involved on bounces. But maybe our alt season is going to be a little bit postponed until we perhaps maybe crash, a flash crash, and then we get bought back up again. Anyway, I think that's all I've got to add on the overall health of the market. But if you want to know more, join my Telegram, and if you want to know even more, join my Patreon. Thank you for watching. Take it easy.